It is then the biggest shake-up in Ukraine's military leadership since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. A shake-up designed to end what has also been one of the country's biggest political crises since the invasion. After days of street protests over last week's removal of the defence minister, President Volodymyr Zelensky sacking now the military's commander-in-chief. The more modernist, popular defence minister had been sacked after reported clashes between him and the more old-style commander-in-chief. Well, earlier I spoke to our Ukraine correspondent Gulliver Cragg, and I started by asking him if the changes now will be enough to placate the protesters.
The organiser of the original first protest a little over a week ago, Dmytro Kozyatinsky, a veteran, has said that it's not over. We've got to get Mikhailo Fedorov reinstated as defence minister. That hasn't happened yet. There's no clarity about what's going to happen to him. He also didn't make any statement about it. He wrote a post thanking Alexander Syrsky. I think that there's a feeling that Alexander Syrsky, the now outgoing Chief of General Staff, has had a bit too much criticism, and he deserves a certain amount of respect for what he did in 2022. But Mikhailo Fedorov didn't say anything about his own position. I think he's probably still negotiating with Volodymyr Zelensky, who is reported to have proposed him various different roles that wouldn't be as head of the defence ministry, but that would be kind of allowing him to continue with the same kind of work, perhaps creating a whole new job for him. But so far, apparently nothing satisfactory. For now, Dmytro Kozyatinsky is calling on people to protest again on Friday if Mikhailo Fedorov hasn't been reinstated as defence minister by then. I think if Mikhailo Fedorov accepts a different post, then things would change. And even if they don't, it's not clear whether or not as many people would turn out to protest. But there is certainly worry that if Mikhailo Fedorov isn't put back in place, or if a defence minister is not named who is seen clearly as a reformer and as somebody who's willing to work closely with the new Chief of General Staff, Mihailo Drapati, then people would see that as being a way for the authorities to try to continue to block the reforms that Mikhailo Fedorov and the majority of Ukrainian public opinion see as being so absolutely necessary in terms of modernizing the army, cutting red tape, cutting out opportunities for corruption and making it all more efficient, and most importantly, trying as hard as possible to replace human beings with drones in order to save lives wherever that is possible. Perhaps I should add, Mikhailo Fedorov's detractors say that this is just a fantasy and that you've got to be prepared to take tough decisions and risk lives if you want to win a war.
Gulliver, we can see some of the images while you're talking there, some of the anger there's been in Ukraine this week. I mean, where does it leave Zelensky himself? Has his position been damaged by all of this?
I think it's really important to underline that although there was only a few thousand people protesting across the country, but relatively small protests, they are the tip of an iceberg of public opinion that is really very, very much on the side of those who were criticising Mikhailo Fedorov's decision and who have for a long time been critical of Alexander Syrsky and his old-school methods. And the feeling that Volodymyr Zelensky fired the whole government, got rid of a prime minister who was perfectly popular for no other reason, apparently, than in order to try to muddy the waters and disguise his dismissal of the popular defence minister. That is something that is being seen by the Ukrainian public as a very bad decision and a very disrespectful decision to them. The fact, though, that he then does respond to pressure from the street, that he acknowledges that while there aren't elections in Ukraine, it's very important to pay attention to street demonstrations, that, shows that they don't feel that all is completely lost with Volodymyr Zelensky. Most Ukrainians I speak to have a sort of divided opinion about the president. I think that they feel that they are extremely critical of him in many ways, and many of them think that he is protecting corrupt networks, if not profiting them from himself, nevertheless having lots of friends who are involved in corruption schemes and wanting to protect them, and they think that that is absolutely reprehensible. But at the same time, they do praise him, sometimes really fulsomely, for some of his moves on the international stage, for some of his rhetorical gestures. There are things that get him applause from the Ukrainian public. And when things start to go well on the front lines, even if it's not really to the president's credit, that does kind of rub off on him. After all, he's in charge and he ends up taking the credit. So there's a real roller coaster of Volodymyr Zelensky's popularity ratings. and it's hard to predict where it will go in the months to come, but certainly this whole sequence will have damaged him quite considerably.